explanation of how this campaign came to be, why this campaign came to be. I know a lot of Chip Theory fans have been looking for...
There's no sound.
Oh, there's no sound. Sorry.
Yeah.
Checkers.
Unless that's like a threat to like check me, like king me, check me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, do it, I dare you. Satisfy the win condition, you coward.
Are you talking?
Yes.
Check.
Yes.
Hello.
Sounds back?
I got it.
Okay.
We're back.
We're back. Once again. It's those the 404th is messing with our stream.
Back again for the first time. Okay. Are we good? Are we good?
We should be good.
We're good. Okay. All right.
Okay, just give me a second. It's doubling up.
Now we're doubling. Now we're doubling up.
Give me some talking.
Talking 1, 2.
Talking 3, 4.
Talking. I forgot how to count.
We're talking about the fact that we're going to fund any minute now.
Oh yeah, we're getting close.
70,000. 414.
Okay, it's good. Okay, I think you are good.
I have heard that before. They're telling us they think we're good for maybe the 5th time this morning. So we're going to try again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the completely issue-free, smooth sailing Burncycle new recruits and series reprint campaign. I am Josh Welgus. You know me as Gilly, and I am joined by, who are you?
I am Salem Scott.
And we are here to answer all your questions about this exciting new campaign that just launched about a half an hour ago. And we're actually coming right up on our funding total, which is super exciting. So I think it would be a good idea to start by talking a little bit about how this campaign came to be. On Discord this morning, there were already a few folks who were like, man, I barely had a chance to even dive into Burncycle, and there's already this expansion content. There's already this campaign coming. So I'm going to start by just kind of explaining why this campaign exists, why we're doing this, why there's new content already. If you backed or followed the original Burncycle campaign, you probably know that similar to the Cloudspire campaign, the original Cloudspire campaign that we ran the campaign with a game that was a little bit unfinished. It was a fleshed out idea, but it was more of an idea than it was a completed game.
You're working on it in the Essen hotel.
Yeah, well, yeah, we weren't working on Burncycle in the Essen hotel, thankfully, but that's how Cloudspire was, and so the campaign, it didn't generate it didn't set the world on fire, so to speak. It didn't create.
It didn't burn the
There you
world.
go. Exactly. Yeah. It didn't create a dystopian future where robots were resuscitating
We
humans.
can dream, though.
Yeah,
we can dream.
We didn't feel like we had an opportunity to show the game in its best light necessarily. So the funding total reflected, kind of the unfinished nature of the campaign. We did a relatively short print run on that initial Burncycle print And then we sent it out to reviewers, we sent it out to backers, and the reception was tremendous, and we largely sold out of it in a matter of, a month or two. And so we had to decide, what are we doing with this franchise? Like, we didn't know what the reception would be. We didn't know how many copies we'd have. We didn't know how fast it would move. Brass Mag sold out in like 5 seconds. And we had to decide, okay, are we gonna front the money right up front to do a big reprint, or are we going to kind of try and capitalize on the momentum that we've got here and bring new expansion content out right out of the gate? So what we decided on was, hey, let's capitalize on the momentum. Let's go ahead and create some expansion content. And you're probably looking at the campaign page and you're seeing this is the smallest amount of new gameplay content I think we've ever rolled out on a particular crowdfunding campaign. And that's largely because a huge part of this campaign is reprinting the Burncycle base game and existing content, and again, doing a campaign to kind of show the game in its full light. We know how the game works. We know how it looks. Everything's all buttoned up, ready to go. And so, boom, here we are, new recruits and full series reprint. And if you weren't aware, I actually have hardly worked on Burncycle at all. I worked on the Burncycle base game a little bit in its early stages. Salem here ended up doing a ton of development work on Burncycle, along with Shannon Wedge, who is in Canada right now visiting family. So she can't be here to joke with us on live stream. But so as far as this live stream goes, I'm kind of the host. I'm here to tell dad jokes, make bad puns, fill you in on like broader CTG stuff. Salem here is the expert on the new recruits campaign. So as it relates to anything Burncycle gameplay related, I'm going to be throwing those questions over to Salem here. And yeah, I don't know. So we can dive in and throw your questions in the comments. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties up front, but we're ready to go and ready to answer some of the questions that you may have. But before that, I'm going to move this. We're going to move this base game box out of the way. And Salem, why don't you start by giving us a primer on what the new content is? Tell us about the new bots. Tell us about the Ebb Wall Corporation, and then we'll touch on the Robophobia free stretch goal expansion after that.
Yeah, and especially because the Robophobia one, with it being the stretch goal expansion, like we've got a lot of things ready for it, but then it's sort of going to be flexible depending on how things go. So it's a little bit hard to talk about this early in the campaign.
Sure.
But to start with the new corporation, which is Ebb Wall. So Ebb Wall is, in the world of Burncycle, is the corporation that is sort of training all of these guards and captains that they are sending out. So they are like the personnel. So like where Biodefend might be the people, they make the armaments and the weaponry and the suits themselves. Ebb Wall is all about the training. Like, all right, how do we make these guards and captains be the meanest of the mean? And so that's going to come with a lot of so when you're infiltrating the corporation, it's going to have a lot of elements that you would find in a training facility. So there is the training room, there's a locker room. We actually also do have a new, here actually, I have these are just prototype components at the moment. So of course this will all be the neoprene as normal, but so we got the training room, and we actually have this new piece here. I just want to make sure that's shown off right.
Yep.
So this is a 1x1 double-doored safe zone, and on the floor plans for the Ebb Wall missions, we actually even use this to place it on top of rooms that already exist. So we're really being a bit more creative, even further, pushing the limits of what we can do with these floor plans. So we're adding safe zones on top of other rooms to really be dynamic as to where those safe zones can go. And then we also got the locker room here. So this is a fun one because it's a very long but very narrow room. So it's really easy to get trapped in here with guards, especially because you have to roll 2 surveillance dice. There is a guard post, so you're likely going to roll a guard. Also, the Ebb Wall threat tracker is all about leaning into the fact that they have high personnel count, so there's going to be spawning a lot of guards. So there's a threat or an escalation event that's going to double the chances of spawning guards when you surveil a room. It's the good results will also spawn guards, which makes going into these rooms really, really tricky. So we wanted to make sure it felt quite a bit different from Biodefend, whereas Biodefend has like their guards are really beefed out. Like, you know, they'll get the double movement and double awareness and just keep. Oh, we funded.
Hey, we just funded.
Hey,
Woo!
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
And so whereas this one, it's like, yeah, a lot more about the number of guards and the overwhelming like presence of their awareness. And even the fact that, so in order to make these mean guards, they have to square up.
Oh, components. Square up the components.
Oh,
You're showing
yeah.
them all askew.
I
Come
am
on.
Come
on, this is
I am a skew
this is an
person,
amateur
so,
hour. We gotta,
yes, I will square up the components like that.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so in order to make these guards be really nasty, like Ebb Wall leans a lot on that sort of anti-bot propaganda. And one of the threat events is where, threat escalation points is where the bots being next to each other start to detect each other. And sort of like the theme behind that is the bots themselves are sort of like this propaganda is rubbing off on the bots as well. They're like, wait, like,
Maybe I hate bots.
maybe I hate bots too. I'm seeing all of this, and then so they're like, hey, there's a bot here, and not even realizing that they're starting to turn each other in. So it's definitely a very new, unique feel to the corporation. And then, of course, it comes with 2 new captains as well. It comes with Lear, who once again sort of leans into that heavy surveillance. She actually has the ability that she can see through walls outside the, like, when she activates, it sort of goes back to normal vision, so there's not any super weird interactions with, like, pursuing, investigating. It all works as normal. But when it's the bot's turns, she's going to be seeing in a straight line even through walls. So it's like, oh, geez, all right, we got to draw a line. Where can we not cross if we don't want to get spotted by her? And the other captain is Brigade, and he is also sort of, and he's the one that's actually on the splash art. He's got that giant bot behind him. So he uses brainwashed bots as sort of to form a personal like phalanx around him as like a shield. So he'll come up with, actually, you can use different chips to sort of build him up. And he's got a pretty weak durability because he's not wearing a giant mech suit like the other guards are or the other captains. He's just sort of got his small little shield and some just armor. But if he ever gets shut down, it's those phalanxes that are like, so the other bots that he's sort of recruiting around him to sort of protect him are going to start falling off first. So you have to actually whittle him down. So he's like the first captain with, I guess, a health stat, if that in that regard.
Yeah.
And then it's got new guards as well. So like Biodefend came with a bunch of auxiliary content like imperatives, equipment, mods. There's a couple of mods and equipment in Ebb Wall as well, but not as much as Biodefend had. And part of that is because we're adding 3 new guard types as well. And so those are going to be, we got a level 1 guard named the Bugaboo. And so like I know the definition of a Bugaboo is something that's like, it's like a bugbear, kind of something that you're afraid of, but the fear is kind of all in your mind.
A boogeyman.
A boogeyman kind of thing. And it's a level 1 guard that actually can patrol through rooms, and it's not confined to its area, and always goes towards the command module. So it's like this, oh, geez, level 1, we have to worry about this guard that's constantly pursuing us. But then at the same time, you're like, but it is just a level 1. You know, like we can maybe tank a few hits, or not the hardest thing to shut down if we need to. So it leans into that sort of like fear of like, oh no, I'm afraid of this thing. Wait, I really shouldn't be though, you know. The next ones, we got a moderator, which also like when it attacks, it messes with your network level. And then the level 3 guard is the sentry, which is kind of like just a big all-seeing. It has a new skill called Omniscient, which lets it, its peripheral awareness stat is equal to its normal awareness stat. And then it has a really high movement. And if you've seen any of the art, I think it's featured on the main page. It's the one that's in sort of like that glass ball. And so it has this ability to sort of see everywhere around it, and then it moves pretty quick. It's got the same movement stat as like a level 3 walker. So that's a quick rundown on Ebb Wall. And then, of course, we have my personal favorite is the new bots. And I'm going to just, I love all of these so much. So the new recruits include, let me know if I need to like flip those.
Rotate, please.
Rotate.
Rotate,
Yeah.
please. There you go.
All right, so we've got, And I know some of the art has been tweaked for some of these, so you might be seeing something different on the campaign page to what we have on these prototype components. But, so we've got, up here we got Cathode, and she is the grifter. She sort of has this, she was like, before she joined the 404th, she was used actually to sort of try and push anti-bot propaganda. So she has like that monitor on her head, and we almost like to believe that she was like, she'd walk into classrooms, or like training facilities, and it would be like when, you had the TV on the cart and rolled in. It's like, all right, we're going to watch a movie today, but it was Cathode, and it would play like anti-bot propaganda to try and really lean into that. But then, of course, when finally switched, and of course, I know Ryan would know all of the lore, the exact lore, a bit more than I would, so I apologize, Ryan, if I get anything wrong. But she uses those assets that she had for like that propaganda to then now fight for bot liberation. So she'll be using it to actually like manipulate guards now. It's all of a sudden she can change the patrols of guards or kind of change like keypads to be like, no, that's not what you're asking me to do. I almost think of her as a bit of like she's using Jedi mind tricks to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we have Packet. Packet is the mole. So he's actually still working for the corporations to some degree. He's a mail service bot. He's just trying, and he's an absolute workaholic. So he has a way to sort of try and complete imperatives more consistently, complete them faster. He can have 2 imperatives at once with one of his abilities, all to sort of almost create like an engine, like so it's a power engine. So he plays in a really fun way that you're just, instead of looking at abilities that might just help you like navigate the map space and things like that, he's almost focusing on, all right, how can I build this engine to keep my power going and then just be this nasty bot in the late game, like with huge amounts of dice, and then he has a pretty low power himself, but of course if he's getting a ton of power, he just constantly feeds that into his other upgrades. And then we have also go with Lithium. So Lithium is the medic of the crew, and they are actually this big robot centaur. They have, even on their back, they have a stretcher. So they normally walk around on 4 legs, but they have the 2 arms. And so what they were beforehand was like an emergency response bot. So they would be called into danger events or whatever, and they can actually like go down on all 6, and that back sort of flattens out to be a stretcher, and then they can quick rush people out. So of course they now use that to sort of help move the bots around. So they have an ability medevac where they can pick up a bot, put them on their back, and just run through. So it can be really helpful if you find yourself in a tight spot. And they also have abilities where they can tank hits. So they are, I think, probably the first true tank character in Burncycle. Like I know we have Casing, who has a huge health pool as well, but unless Casing's there in the action, it might not be easy to tank, whereas Lithium can actually get an ability that anytime a different bot will lose power, Lithium can take that instead. Be like, nope, awesome. You're safe, I'll take it. And then, of course, we got the agent of chaos here, Torrent. I adore Torrent so much. Okay, so Torrent is a battle bot, and we had so much fun. I know we were talking with JC, where we're sort of coming up, and
that's Josh Carlson.
Yeah, Josh Carlson. Yep, and he was having he's a huge like Robot Wars and BattleBots fan. So when we were coming up with like, oh, what can we do with this? It's like, okay, well, I know there's that one with the Hypno Disc, so we sort of changed it into the Hyper Disc. So that's that little like shield thing Torrent's got. That's a thing that she can put on the ground, and so when guards walk into it, they spin out, they go crazy. She breathes fire, which is so cool. That actually allows her to melt doors shut, cool. Weld them shut temporarily, and so it's treated as a wall. So how guards can always go through locked doors, so doors don't really provide much protection for the bots. But walls, unless you're dealing with a ghost, you can just weld that shut, and the guards are like, oh, I can't get to you, So it can buy you a few turns to try and get an escape. It is temporary, though, so it won't last forever. And then my personal favorite is Rocket Fist. And also I should probably show these off. So what's unique about Torrent as well is all 3 of her abilities they actually have different chips that correspond to them. So when you use that ability, you place that chip down, and then once it's done, it flips, and you actually have to go pick it back up. So that's sort of a way that we balance around the sheer power of these is you don't get to just keep on using them. You actually have to go retrieve it. And if you go to the next floor without retrieving it, you lose that, and then you have to buy it again. But yeah, Rocket Fist, when you stun a guard. So Torrent's Innate is all about helping with stuns. So not so much a like here to shut down the guards, but more so to just keep them at bay, keep them like stunned, so they're really not hassling you. But what Rocket Fist does is when you stun a guard, you can actually launch that guard through the corporation. They will stun other guards they pass through, and they'll even break down walls as well. So you might find yourself just toe-to-toe with a guard and be like, all right, and there's like maybe you've gotten a chance to like line up a bunch of guards. You can just launch this fist through, and it just boom, 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 boom. That's awesome. A lot of fun. I know we'll have a gameplay video sometime in the near future here on the campaign, and I use Rocket Fist, and spoiler, I used it because it was fun, not necessarily because it was the best play at that time, but I have no regrets because it was a lot of fun. So
that's
anyway.
awesome. So yeah, so there's a primer on some of the new content. Let's hit a couple of these questions before we continue talking more. So is it possible to store the first gen brass mags in the base game box? And we've got a couple other questions around just brass mags. So yes, it is possible to store the first generation brass mags in the base game box, and actually you can basically take the tray insert and go ahead and just like drop it right into the base game.
Yeah.
We anticipate that the Brass Mags Volume 2 box will essentially be almost exactly the same size as the Brass Mags Volume 1 box. So what that means is that Brass Mags Volume 2 would also fit in the base game on their own. However, I don't think that all of the Brass Mags are going to fit in the base game between Volume 1 and Volume 2 all at the same time. So I don't have proof of that yet because we don't have a box of the new brass mags yet. In fact, we don't even have 3D printed models. We have some STLs that we'll be showing throughout the campaign. But yeah, so you won't be able to fit literally all of the brass mags in the entire series in the base game, I don't believe. But you can fit one set of brass mags in the base game.
And just a heads up too for anyone who is trying to get the Volume 1 brass mags. The little like slots that sort of like go up and around. You know, I don't know how to describe. They're the ones that like keep the threat cards from moving back and forth, and then separate the neoprene and the. So you will want to make sure you rotate it the right way because those slots will fit perfectly. I believe it's in between the bot brass mags. If you try and do it the other way with the guards, they will clash. So just a heads up for anyone who's trying to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Are the Captain Brass Mags the same size or bigger than the Guard Mags? I believe they're roughly the same size. The idea, though, is that these Captains are also, for the most part, you know, walking around in these same giant mech suits, but their sculpt will be unique. And so, yeah, from a size perspective, again, the box is going to roughly be the same between your Captains, and then the new bots will be, you know, mostly small, just like the original bots are. But yes, the Captains will be large, imposing. They're not going to be like these little humans walking around that look less imposing than the guards. They all have been, we've done full art now for them, and because that's what the 3D sculpt is being based on. And so that full art features them in huge, menacing, scary-looking mech suits for the most part, or weird-looking mech suits, that kind of thing. Again, if you look at the, and we'll be showing, like I said, we'll be showing more art to this end throughout the campaign, but if you look at the cover of the Brass Mags Volume 2 box, you get a very good idea of the kind of menacing sort of things that we're looking to have these Captains be marching around in. So, will the cards be thicker for the new base game as the ones currently are prone to scratches? We have not found them to be prone to scratches, but they will be the same. Again, if you've bought multiple Chip Theory titles, you may notice that the Burncycle cards do feel a little bit different than cards from, say, Too Many Bones, and that is simply because they are made in different locations. So Too Many Bones and Cloudspire were produced at Gameland, and Burncycle was produced at E-Star, and so the plastic cards just feel a little bit different between the two factories. We have not had any issues with scratching of our cards, though. If you do have significant scratching issues on any of your components that seem abnormal, please contact support, and we are happy to assist you in resolving that. Will there be a translation pack or updates pack? Nothing planned at this time, and that largely just has to do with volume. We may translate the game in the future, but right now we are sticking with English. This is a good question, and something that if there was one complaint I heard over and over and over and over again, and I want to explain this on camera, regarding the base game, it was you guys did not do reference sheets or reference cards the way that you did in previous Chip Theory titles. You know, Cloudspire and Bones all have like huge reference materials that you are looking at a lot during gameplay. And I want to say that was intentional. We didn't like cheap out on you. We genuinely tried to make Burncycle is a little bit different in that it's a game that is complex to learn, but once you learn it, there are very few skills and abilities you need to constantly be referencing on, like Too Many Bones baddies. You know, there's a full set of keywords on a double-sided sheet. Cloudspire has a separate reference sheet for landmarks and landmark abilities compared to your faction reference sheets. Burncycle, we went much easier on keywords, and that was very, very intentional. And so in our play testing, which again happened during COVID largely and did not happen nearly as much with physical components, it largely happened on Tabletop Simulator. And what we experienced during play testing was that there wasn't a huge need for these big reference sheets. And you know, that was, I think, largely because our playtesters became very familiar with the game very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. Upon release, and with everybody interacting with the physical copy, if I had a dime for every time, or a nickel, or whatever the colloquialism is, $1, if for every time that I saw somebody on Facebook say, "Where are the reference sheets? Why didn't they do a reference sheet? I hate looking through this rule book at the reference in the rule book," I would be very, very rich, regardless of what denomination of money you were giving me every time I heard that. So yes, there is somebody from the community, and I would butcher their name if I tried to. We're going to give them credit in the product description and so on and so forth. But we had a Chip Theory fan who put together a awesome set of reference cards for Burncycle, and it's a set of 4. And again, this is so that we can kind of keep them small, so that you can pass them around as needed around the table. Set of 4 reference cards for the game, and those will be included in all copies of Burncycle moving forward. Every print that we do moving forward will include those reference cards. You do have an opportunity, if you own the first print edition of Burncycle, you do have an opportunity to add those as a part of this campaign for $1.50. That's our cost on them. We are not making any profit on these. We're trying to sell them and get them to you as cheaply as we can. They are made of PVC, just like the rest of the cards in the game. And again, yeah, they will be added to every copy of Burncycle printed moving forward as a part of this reprint campaign. So hopefully that answers all the questions about the reference cards. They're great. We're making a couple adjustments, but you can actually download them if you head over to the Burncycle Community Hub Facebook group. We haven't made them available on our website or anything yet, but I think they're also posted on BGG, Board Game Geek. You can download them now and print off paper versions of them until your PVC versions arrive. Again, there will be a couple adjustments made to them as we take them in-house and have our own designers make a few touch-ups, but largely they are going to be what they already are, and they look great. They look they look super professional.
And they already match like the aesthetics so well. It's like so impressive.
Right.
Another quick thing about the reference cards too. Another reason why we wanted to go with that reference card as opposed. So like this game takes up space on the table, and that was another thing too. Like we put the quick reference in the back of the Learn to Play because the hope was, you go through the Learn to Play, you sort of understand the fundamentals, and then once you do that, you don't really need to, like you might go there to like just get a refresher on setup or something like that. But for the most part, that's not a book you would need to be flipping through.
Right.
When you're playing, it was the rules reference more so. So that's why we put it like, okay, and we knew it needed to be 2 pages, so that's why it's like on the open, so you could just put it off and have it open. Of course, another thing too, and like not a problem on like TTS, for example, where that there's not, you can shrink things down as much as you'd like.
Right.
A lot of tables might not have space to have a 2-page rulebook open up, and on top of that, don't always have space for a full reference sheet either. So what's nice about the cards is they're around the same size as the mission cards, I believe, is the plan. And so when you're done referencing it, you can just tuck it into the back of the card tray, like right behind the captain card or right behind the mission card, and they're just there when you need it. And so you can just take it out, be like, all right, what was the thing again? Okay, that's what it was, and put it back. So they're easy to pass around. They're easy to store in the card tray. Of course, that also helps for box storage as well, because you can just put that in the card tray. So that was another reason why we went with the small reference card approach rather than like a more traditional reference sheet.
Right.
Plus, because it's easier for us to also like split it up among cards. It could be like, okay, this one's all about guards, and this one's all about die symbols and things like that. Whereas a reference sheet, it's like, I mean, if you look at the quick reference, you can sort of see we've tried to group things together, but just space-wise, it's easier to organize when we have more things to put them on.
Right. So keep your questions coming in the comments. I want to take a second to talk a little bit about Robophobia.
Oh, yeah.
And Brass Mag, so the other 2 pieces of content that are coming, new content that are coming with this campaign. So this is something that we've kind of done before with both the Hero's Bounty card pack from Cloudspire Ankar's Plunder, as well as the Caves of Daylor, which ended up being 40 caves in Daylor as a part of the Too Many Bones Unbreakable campaign. And so what's happening is we've thrown in a free expansion when you back the new content for this campaign. So if you buy Ebb Wall and the new Renegades bot pack, you will receive Robophobia, is what we're calling it, for free. And this is a small micro expansion that's going to grow and adjust based on the stretch goals that we unlock. So essentially, we don't know how much content is going to end up in this expansion. You get to choose. It's going to be something that, well, you don't get to choose literally, but it's going to be based on the amount of stretch goals that we unlock. So I think starting at the $150,000 level, we start to add content to the Robophobia box. And so there's a whole bunch of cards. There is, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's something called adaptive missions. You want to talk about what adaptive missions are?
Yes, so those are actually really exciting. Oh, also one thing I wanted to mention too about Ebb Wall. Another big thing that came out when this game came out is just, it can be a long game, for sure. And I 100% believe that it's one of those games, as with pretty much all of our titles, that the more you play it, the more you understand it, the less you're having to reference things, the faster those games are going to go. But they can still get pretty long, especially when you really love the part where you stop and try and think through decisions very meticulously. That adds to the game time, but of course that's part of the appeal. And so I know, because when the game was originally conceptualized, it was always going to be 3-floor missions. Just the core mechanics were always 3 floors. But then once we introduced the sort of tailored mission parts, that's where we're like, oh, hey, we can actually be more flexible. We can have 1 floor, 2 floor, 3 floor. But because the game was originally designed with that 3 floor in mind, we wanted most of those missions to be 3 floor. Of course, now with the game out, the 1 and 2 floor missions have just boomed in popularity. And the 3 floors can be great when you're really looking for all right, we want to make an evening of this. We want to feel like we really go on this big, long, tough heist. But they can sometimes be a bit long. So for Ebb Wall, we're actually trying to focus more on those 1 and 2 floor missions, a little bit more sort of pushing more of those in than previous corporations. There is still 3 floor missions as well, but it's not going to be that 2, 2, 4. I think it's around, I want to say it's 3, 3, and 2. So 3, 1 floor, 3, 2 floor, 2, 3 floor. And then, yes, so with one of the stretch goals is the adaptive missions. And those are 1-floor missions that are designed to be playable on any floor of any corporation that you want. So they are completely replayable with all of the different floors. So you'd be like, hey, this time we're going to do need chain floor 2. And then next time we're going to do, ocularity floor 1. And we do plan on having some kind of, because that can be a lot of choice too, like, oh geez, we're like, where do I start? So, and some of the missions, like depending on the floor plan, will be a lot harder because it's like you need to do something with terminals. Well, this corporation has only a few terminals all spread out. That's going to be so much harder versus, ocularity where there's a ton of terminals everywhere. And so we do plan on having a bit of hey, don't know where to start with these adaptive missions. Here's our recommendations for your first go around. Like, hey, this mission we recommend starting on need chain 3. Like, we think it's a great way to sort of show off the mechanics, get you started, but then once you have it, you can apply it to any mission and sort of really see how those objectives play into it. On top of that too, it also has an adaptive difficulty as well. So normally when you do a mission on floor 3, you have to do everything else is floor 3. Like keypads are floor 3, guards are going to spawn are usually level 3, things like that. Makes the mission a lot harder. So in addition to choosing the floor of a corporation, you can also choose what difficulty. So what floor do you want to treat this as? So you could still, if you really love the floor layout of Ebb Wall floor 3, you think oh, these, the way these rooms are designed makes for such an interesting movement puzzle. I love it, but I don't want to play on a floor 3 difficulty. You can just go, okay, well, for this mission, we're going to do Ebb Wall floor 3, but we're going to treat it like floor 1. So the locks are going to be easier. The guards that spawn are going to be easier. It really gives you a lot more of that choice as to where you want to start. So it's probably good to start at those easier difficulty levels and move up without necessarily doing the simplified difficulty level that is sort of standard in the base game. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. So again, those adaptive missions, those are stretch goals that we will certainly unlock some of them throughout the campaign, and they really embrace the sandbox nature of Burncycle. I know there have been folks out there who have requested oh, I wish this was super tailored the way that Cloudspire missions are, and we certainly understand that desire from some folks, but that's not really the way that Burncycle was designed to be played. Burncycle is all about the squad tactics nature of taking, the bots that you've chosen and being able to read the board properly based on what guards come out, based on how your rooms roll out, based on the various patrols of the guards, based on the unique ability of the captain. That's really the heart and soul of the game. And so while the missions give you a pretty clear directive on how that mission is going to play out, how that game is going to play out, the fun comes from solving that puzzle as it develops. Whereas, again, a game like Cloudspire is very much about, really meticulous strategy and figuring out just the right way to use your faction to achieve absolute perfect victory. And certain people love, either approach a lot more than the other. But again, we want to embrace that sandbox nature of Burncycle, that idea that the game develops in front of you, and there's a myriad of possibilities, a myriad of different ways that it could go every time you play. It really makes the game, it's a game that's already immensely replayable, but these adaptive missions add yet another layer of that where you can really tailor a mission to be exactly as difficult, as challenging, as crazy as you would like it to be based on the combo that you put together. And I think that's really cool because I love my design ethos, my developer ethos is, and again, I'm infamous for putting together the first scenario, the first Braun 1 Ignition in Cloudspire is kind of a perfect example of my design ethos. I want it to be like Dark Souls, basically. You know what I mean? I want to punish you right out of the gate. I want it to be challenging. I want you to feel really accomplished when you successfully win something that I have worked on at all. And so I personally love these adaptive missions because you can really put it together however you want. You can make it super difficult. There are other people who feel like if I play a 2-hour game, I better win because I just wasted 2 hours of my life on this thing. And if I lose at the end of it, I'm going to be really upset. You can really kind of, adjust it however you want with these adaptive missions. So Robophobia, it does come with, right out of the gate, no stretch goals unlocked whatsoever. It does come with Phobia, who is a new captain, and at the 100K mark, which we'll be unlocking here probably within the hour. At the 100K mark, we do add a Brass Mag Mini for Phobia directly into the Brass Mags Volume 2. But everything else that will be added to that Robophobia expansion will sort of be happening as we unlock stuff. So stay tuned over the next 10 days. There'll be some cool stuff coming from Robophobia expansion. And we'll be talking more about it as that stuff unlocks throughout the next days. Take a look at a couple questions before I talk about Brass Mags Volume 2. Are there new guards coming with Ebb Wall? Yeah, we talked a little bit about those earlier in the stream. There are 3.
3 new guards. I believe there's going to be 2 of each, though, so it's 6 new guards total. Yes, 6 new guard chips, 3 unique new words.
Got it.
Are hard. So it's going to be a new level 1, a new level 2, and a new level 3. And just because I know we did go into them a little bit more detail earlier on, but just as a quick refresher, the level 1 is going to be the first level 1 guard that actually has a patrol that lets it patrol through rooms and not confined to its area. So it's kind of like the Ghost in that regard. Can't go through walls though, so don't worry too much. But it always goes towards the command module. So it's actually sort of like a constant threat you have to worry about even on floor 1. But it is just a level 1 guard, so it's not going to hit too hard. The level 2 guard is one that has a skill that messes with your network level. So when it hits you, not only are you going to take power loss, you're also going to lose your network level. So it's going to put a little bit more heat on the network. And then the last one is the Sentry, which has a sort of an omniscient ability. It lets its peripheral awareness is equal to its normal awareness, and it has really, really high movement. So it actually has the same amount of movement as like a walker, but with so much more vision. It doesn't have drain though, so that's something the walker's got that might make a walker a little bit nasty, depending on.
Sure. So let's talk about Brass Mags Volume 2 a little bit first, and then I see we also have some more questions to get here. So Brass Mags Volume 2, it comes with a unique sculpt for every captain in the game. And again, once we hit the $100,000 mark, that will include even Phobia from the Robophobia expansion. So we have unique sculpts for every captain. And again, these are going to be giant imposing sculpts a la the guard sculpts that you saw in Brass Mags Volume 1. And then it will also come with 4 new bot sculpts for the 4 bots, the Renegades expansion. So that is Torrent, that is Cathode, that is Packet, and that is Lithium. So those 4 bots, and then I believe there's a total of 11. I think when you include Phobia, there's 11 new larger sculpts for the captains that will help them stand out on the board even more. So we're really excited about those. Those Brass Mags sold out so fast after release, and again, we didn't really have an example to show during that original Burncycle campaign. So I think a lot of people were very hesitant to back expensive metal miniatures with magnets in them. Everybody was kind of like, "What? I don't really totally get how these work." And then, the first time we ever showed them snapping to a chip in their final sculpted form, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen." So yeah, we have a brand new volume of these coming out. We know they're super popular. People have asked us, are we going to do them for other franchises in the Chip Theory universe? And we're talking about that. We're talking about all of that, whether or not that's possible. But Brass Mags Volume 2 also a part of this campaign, and we're very excited to show more of those. We do have several sculpts done. We are still we're working on some cool stuff to show them off when we don't have final production copies of them just yet. But stay tuned throughout the campaign. We'll be showing more about Brass Mags Volume 2. Okay, back to the questions that you all have. Question, will you be able to mix up a floor 3 plus the doors being level 2 and then guards being level 1 with adaptive missions?
So currently at the moment, not quite that level. Part of that is
not in an official capacity.
Yeah, so part of that is also like, we know that even already the game can be a bit overwhelming once you finish the tutorial as to like, oh, where do I even start? And so with these, we didn't want to just exasperate that too much further by also being like, well, now you get to choose the mission, now you get to choose the floor. We wanted to have that there so you can really feel like the sandbox. But another reason why we're also like looking into being like, all right, when this comes out, being like, hey, here's our recommendations for how to get started with, especially with the adaptive missions. Like, here's our recommendation for the first, So at the moment, it will just be choose your floor plan, but then choose the floor difficulty, as it were. That being said, though, like we fully endorse players sort of finding their own ways to adapt this as well. Like Burncycle was designed to really kind of feel like that sandbox infiltration kind of game where it's like you get to make your experience. And so we didn't want there to be too many rules, so the people who are trying to stick to the rules are like, well, that says I need to make all these decisions, and I don't even know where to start to make those decisions. So we want to try and make it a little bit more approachable while still maintaining that.
Right.
But that being said, if you're looking at a mission, you think, oh, I want to tailor. I love the guards being super hard, but those level 3 locks, like, I just wish the locks were a little bit easier. Like that's more fun for me or something. Go for it. 100% go for it. I cannot stress enough, like, I love taking games I love and then making small adjustments myself to like be like, well, I love this game, but this is the part I love the most. So I'm going to just tweak the rules a little bit.
Right.
Just so it leans into more as the reasons why I love it.
Right.
And I fully support doing stuff like that.
We get asked, there's folks who constantly ask for, like, they want an official difficulty variant for one of our games, or Bones is the most common one. People always want to make 4-player harder, and we always say, like, here's a couple different ways you could do, and they're like, yeah, but like, can you make it official? Like, can you? And I'm telling you right now on camera, officially, do whatever you want. Make it fun. So yeah, if you want to mix and match, go for it. I don't know that we'll release any official rules to that end, but please do make cool mods. Like the modding community on PC for all sorts of video games is a huge thing, and it objectively makes a lot of games a lot more fun and more interesting. So go for it. Go for it. All right. Some other questions. Will there be a separate floor plan book for the new floors, or will they all be bound in one book? There will be a separate floor plan book for Ebb Wall that will come inside of the box. So they will not all be bound together in one single book. And that is simply because as we release new waves of content for Burncycle, we have to be able to continue to, if we're going to make more corporations, we can't keep going back and reprinting them in that base game book moving forward. We have to allow them to evolve. It's a printing of Burncycle that comes with the Unbreakable pledges. Will that have the new reference cards in them? I believe the answer to that is no. I believe this initial, or the copies sold as a part of Unbreakable are the first print run copies. And I'm not 100% positive on that, but I don't think the reprint will likely be here actually in time to fulfill with Unbreakable, more than likely. Which actually I should talk about the timeline on this project. So we've put April 1st of next year as the delivery timeline for this content. That being said, I expect, and we'll see with the holidays and we'll see with Chinese New Year also, both falling in between now and and April 1st of next year. I do expect this content will deliver well ahead of April 1st, just because of how far along it all is. Like, we have all the missions designed already. They're being actively play tested. But I've said that before about things and ended up very, very wrong. So I want to be careful about that. But I just want you to know, again, from a new content perspective, this is one of the smaller crowdfunding campaigns we've ever done. And this content is, like, it's deep in play testing already. Like,
that is true. Yeah.
We've been play testing it for a few weeks. And again, that is content complete. That's not like we're play testing a quarter of it. It's like, no, we're testing all of it. And I think, unless we discover some glaring issues within play testing, which so far we haven't, a lot of this stuff is going to go to print, I think relatively after play testing concludes. So April 1st is the official fulfillment timeline that we've given you on this campaign. But like I said, we're hopeful that it will actually be a good bit sooner than that. However, this reprint, again, will likely not be ready for Unbreakable delivery No, it's just a base stuff that already exists. So just know that going in.
That kind of transitions to the next question.
Yeah, will we be able to buy these reference cards on Chip Theory's website at some point, or is it exclusive to Gamefound? I will work to clarify that with the team. I don't know the answer to that question. It's one of those tricky things because this pack of reference cards will only apply to folks who own the original print run, and so the whole like supply demand side of it, similar to when we would do update packs for Too Many Bones, the whole supply demand piece of it is very tricky. We don't want to overprint and just have a giant pile of plastic cards sitting around in our warehouse that are relatively useless to us, but we do want to make sure that everybody who wants a set can get a set. And so I don't know the answer to that, but we will work to clarify that throughout the campaign. It's a great question, and it's one that I made a note about last night that I failed to get an answer for going into the stream, and I apologize for that. Will we ever get a Joan the Drone brass mag? The amount of conversations we had to this end are a lot. I don't know. Do you have any insight on this, or you want me to take this one?
I don't have insight on
Okay.
this.
So when we were originally designing, what's the bot that has Joan the Drone? Memory. When we were originally designing the memory brass mag, we looked at a whole bunch of things. We looked at whether we could actually put another magnet inside of Memory's head, and then do a Joan the Drone sculpt that would like magnetize on top of that. The short answer right now is the question was, will we ever? I don't know. The answer for right now on whether you will get one is likely no. Part of the issue is that like Joan the Drone is supposed to be flying. And so if we do a brass mag for Joan and it's on a metal base that magnetizes to a chip, like it's just going to be Joan like sitting on a metal base, not flying. It's going to look like Joan is like scuttling along the ground. And thematically, that's like the antithesis of what we're trying to do thematically with Joan. So we've looked at a few different options because the brass mags are metal. You'll see on a lot of sculpts, you do like the little transparent post or whatever to make something look like it's flying. If you've ever seen X-Wing minis, that kind of thing. We haven't found a solution yet, a compelling solution that would make that mini not seem kind of lame in use and in practice, but we have not given up on it yet. And as you know, with Chip Theory, if we're still trying to find a solution for something, eventually we often do find a solution and we do make that available. There's also like the goofiness of like, okay, so the Memory mini is in volume 1 of Brass Mags, and then we put Joan in volume 2, but Memory is in the base game, and Joan, I don't know. There's some weirdness there that I don't know if we can really address at this stage in the game. So again, the short answer, will you ever get a Joan mini? The short answer is no. The long-term answer is maybe if we can manage to figure it out, but I'm not making any promises to that end because it's a little bit trickier than it seems, and we don't want to release a really lame Joan mini that is chilling on the ground and not flying.
There's also the added trickiness too with Joan because Joan is so often either sharing memory space,
right,
or like if you're using Joan to stun, is sharing a guard space. And when you're playing with brass mags, it's easy. You can just put it under that stack, and you're like, okay, well, I know Joan is under memory, like obviously not thematically under memory, but it's easy to do that because you can just put her chip under that stack. Whereas if Joan were to have a brass mag, then it's like, okay, well, then do I move the brass mag? So it's like, that's just a little bit as to why a Joan brass mag has to be given a little bit more thought than a normal one. So like what you were saying about the whole like attach it to, like that could probably work, but of course that comes with its own myriad of issues. So just another reason as to why it is harder to do than other brass mags.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But we're looking at a couple different solutions. There may be a bright, I don't want to give away too much. There may be a bright future for brass mags for other purposes. We've got some things brewing behind the scenes that hopefully, in the next year or so, we'll be able to talk about a little bit more beyond some of the other things that we've already announced. So The last question, if you have any questions, please throw them in the comments. We've got one question remaining up here before I'm just going to give a quick overview of like kind of what's all going on in the CTG universe to close. But the question was previously said, you hope that the drawbag would have more use in future expansions. Is there anything in Ebb Wall that is using the bag in an interesting way?
Yes, I can't remember exactly. But I know this is something that we took to heart when we were designing new missions and other things like that. So we do have a number of missions that really use the drawbag in a little bit more of a dynamic way,
Yeah.
or in a way where it's like, no, you're actually putting a fair amount in that drawbag, just like shuffling it in your hands and like placing it might not work. So I know, like, for instance, there's, and this is just, I know there's a few different things because we definitely wanted to try and lean into the drawbag a bit more. I know there is one of the adaptive missions, and not to give away too much because I don't know exactly like where they're getting like announced,
Right.
where they're getting more revealed, but there is one where you essentially have to find the command module.
Mm-hmm.
And the command module has like been taken by the corporation. You need to like try and navigate it, but the corporation has also set traps for you. So when you do setup, you place in the drawbag a bunch of the captain and a bunch of guards, depending, and you leave it. So the drawbag just has them all there. So you need to actually, before you can even add the command module to the bag, you need to complete the first part of the mission, and then you add the command module to the bag, and then you need to, and you keep drawing from the bag. I think it's every time you surveil a room, I think, or something like that, something along those lines. So you're constantly drawing guards, so until you can get the command module, and then you got to try and draw the command module out. So then it's like, all right, how can we surveil these rooms as fast as possible, or how can we push these guards out of the rooms? Because there's a mechanic that lets you surveilled rooms, but they can't have any units, so you got to guards out, and then, all right, let's check back in. Is the command module actually here? Like, where is it? Where is it? And so that's the bag itself is like you put the stuff in it, and you keep drawing from it throughout the game. And then there is a rule in there too that's like, hey, if you ever need the drawbag for rebooting the Burncycle, for example, it'll tell you like, all right, just set those chips aside. Or of course, you can just do the whole like grab the chips, shuffle them under the table, which I know a lot of people have been doing. Totally fine. I sometimes do it too. Though I will say, I do love this bag. There's stuff in here.
What's in there?
There's dice.
Oh, nice.
Hey. Anyway.
There you go, Wally.
Yeah. And it's nice just having it stand up. But yes, so we are looking into and have been looking into and incorporating the bag in missions in interesting ways. I know there is another mission somewhere too that uses it in a really cool way. Woo!
Yeah, hey, we just unlocked our first stretch goal. So Phobia
Gonna have a brass
officially
mag.
will be given a brass mag, and that is a sculpt that we have not yet commissioned. Because again, we didn't. I should just say we have no expectations for this campaign. I mean, we expect it to do pretty well, but again, given that it's a reprint campaign with relatively little new gameplay content compared to other like large big box expansions and stuff that we've done, and with the game having just released, we have no expectations. We're just happy to be here, frankly. Like, let's just all have a good time. You know, I hope both teams had fun at the end of this game. And
No, down with the corporation.
So yeah, the first stretch goal is unlocked, which is awesome. Let's keep unlocking more. There's lots and lots and lots of good stuff. So where is the crossover? We have two new questions. Where is the crossover equipment pack inspired from? Other CTG games? So yeah, so if you didn't back Too Many Bones Unbreakable or didn't follow that campaign on Gamefound, there's a follow gift for that. What's wrong? Flip my mic. Oh, look at that.
So there's a follow gift for Too Many Bones Unbreakable that had a bunch of loot cards that were inspired by other chip theory titles. I'll pass it back over to you now that you're good.
Including one that was inspired by the Elder Scrolls, a little bit, spoiler alert. So, and that was, but yeah, a pack of 3 cards that were, there's an Elfin Kazi from Cloudspire now that we called it a
Convoluted
hummingbird. So we wanted to do that again for Burncycle. However, the theme of all equipment in Burncycle is it's like, we give fancy names to like very mundane technology. So the new crossover loot pack, it's inspired by other CTG titles, but like one of them is an ancient chariot. It's a golf cart but it's inspired by Hoplomachus in the same way that not in the same way. It's an ancient chariot because there's chariots in Hoplomachus, but the actual equipment itself is a golf cart, for example. So it's just a fun kind of wink and nod to our other games. We get asked all the time, will there be a Gearlock faction in Cloudspire? Will there be Cloudspire units in Burncycle? Et cetera, et cetera. We don't really have any plans to do that, but we do make cute references to our other titles with. So so if you follow the campaign ahead of launch and then you subsequently back any level of this campaign, you will receive that loot pack for free. It will not be Gamefound exclusive. We will sell it for $5 moving forward. It'll probably be available on our website during the promo window between Black Friday and the holidays moving forward, as will the Unbreakable crossover loot pack. So again, our goal is never, ever, ever, ever to make things crowdfunding exclusive if we can help it at all. We just find that to be fundamentally unfriendly to the consumer, and we want to be the anti-FOMO company. You always have to create a little bit of FOMO on any Gamefound Kickstarter campaign. Our aim in our heart of hearts is to forever be the anti-FOMO company, though. We know our stuff's expensive. We know not everybody can afford to go all in all the time, and so know that will be available moving forward. But you do get it for free if you followed the campaign before launch and now have subsequent.
I'm also a big fan of the Cloudspire one. It's the Sourcewell, but for the art, it's like a power outlet.
Yeah.
It's like...
So yeah, cute winks and nods like that. Any new lore for this campaign? There is new lore, not a new lore portfolio. So we're not doing any big lore booklet or again, portfolio was the Burncycle thing. We're not doing a lore portfolio with a Discman this time, in the same way that we did a lore portfolio with a Walkman secret in it, a la the first campaign. You can get the original lore portfolio as a part of this campaign if you missed out on that the first time around, but we are not doing a new lore portfolio. However, Ryan Howard, our author, was here late last night finishing up the short story that does go along with this campaign, and we'll be piecing that out, and you'll be seeing it throughout the updates that we'll be releasing daily during this campaign. So there is a new short story. I know the lore in general and the storyline for Burncycle, I would say it's probably been the best received lore and story that we have done as a company thus far, even compared to Cloudspire. So so stay tuned for that. Look forward to that, and you'll be seeing that throughout the updates campaign. I think we're out of questions. This is your last chance to ask any question you've ever wanted to ask me
or
about anything. Don't get weird. Don't get weird. I don't want to get weird. Real quick though, I just want to offer just a few updates from across the CTG universe alongside this campaign. Again, lots of people asking about the Elder Scrolls campaign. We do have much more information coming about that very, very soon, so stay tuned. As soon as this campaign is over, we will be fully switching gears. Basically, everybody in the entire company will be switching gears to Elder Scrolls Prep and Elder Scrolls Mania. If we have not released any official information about that campaign to you yet, it is largely because we are waiting on approvals from Bethesda. So everything that we create for the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era has an extra approval process it needs to go through with Bethesda. And so we have tons of art, tons of concepts. We have maps. We have all sorts of stuff that is being approved and looked at by Bethesda. Much of it is starting to come back now. So within the next few weeks or month or whatever, we should have more to share with you about that campaign. We released an update about Hoplo Victorum last night on Kickstarter, and we did some amazing things with the stadium seating that is that you should see. We pretended we were going to do a glitter version of it, so go read that update in Kickstarter if you haven't seen it. And we released a pop-up book in the last month or so that has a crazy puzzle deck inside of it. Again, we released a Walkman, as a part of the Burncycle lore portfolio. And we've been making, I was making jokes with Josh Carlson here in the office a couple nights ago, and I was like, somebody told you someday you were going to run a company that in the span of a month would release a Walkman, a cassette tape, a pop-up book, and a deck of cards, like you probably never would have believed it. And that's the nature of being at Chip Theory and doing weird stuff. So, yeah, a couple of last questions popping in here. Any advice for getting brass mags out of the packs? They always seem too tight or super tight.
So actually, I'll put this here and the top-down cam can get a look at it. So one thing too I do want to also say is you can actually put these in and not snap them into place. So like once you get them out for that first time, if you just like lightly put them in and then put this cover over, for the most part, it's going to be pretty solid. Like it pops up just a little bit, but if you have the cover, it's totally fine. If you're putting it in the base game, you can just probably put some stuff like the rule books or a dice tray on top or whatever. Should be totally fine, no worries. So that's one way to be really helpful. Because I know the hardest ones, at least in my experience, are definitely the guards. Some of the bots can be a little bit tricky at times, but the best strategy I always have is to go for to push from the back usually. Also for these guards, I don't know if it's going to be easy to see, but on the left side, right there's like a little notch. And so once it's like snapped into place, that notch is really what makes it tough to get it out. It keeps it really, really secure. So my recommendation is to sort of go from the top, you push that in, and then you push down from the back. And then usually if you grab, now that wasn't in all the way, so it made it look easier than it might actually be. But that's more or less, let's see if I can snap that one into place. Well, sometimes it's hard to actually get them. Yeah, all right, I'm not going to mess with it. But sometimes it's hard to snap them into place, in which case, hey, just do it like this, where they're nice and loose.
I will say we are looking at this for both Volume 2 and the next print run of Volume 1. However, these are made of metal, and we do need to secure them tightly in transit and in shipping, because it's not good to have random hunks of metal floating around in any box. So the other strategy that a lot of people have said is simply to like take a hairdryer to the insert for a little bit to soften it up and get it more flexible, and that also tends to work very, very, very well. However, if you ever have any issues, if you damage a brass mag in the process of getting it out, get a hold of support. We're here to assist you. It's not your fault. I forgive you. Support forgives you. They might not totally forgive you privately, but publicly in their emails to you, they will forgive you. And we're here to take care of you. We know we know they're an expensive item, and we know that folks really, really love them. We want you to be happy with them and help, and we're here. Last question that I see here: the best strategy in Burncycle. What's the best strategy in Burncycle?
If whenever that gameplay video does go live, it's going to be quickly apparent that I should not be consulted for Burncycle strategy.
You're more of an agent of chaos.
Yes. Oh, and that's why I just love Torrent. I'm so excited for Torrent. Anyway, best strategy is, I think probably the coolest thing I've seen since this game came out is the fact that there have been differing opinions among the people who've been playing this game the most. Mm-hmm. So I know like when couple weeks into the game came out, people were learning the game and getting really, really good at it. And so I think it was even just within like a month or so, like there was somebody made a whole tier list of all of the bots on BGG. And like I have some disagreements with some of the choices, but first of all, I don't know if you're watching, very, very well written. Made me laugh a lot of times at some of your descriptions. Really, really funny. But it's just like all of these thoughts about like, oh, hey, this is why this bot is super, super good. And this is why this bot is like, oh, I don't like this one. But then people would respond being like, wait, I think you're undervaluing that bot because of these reasons, and would point out different. So there's a lot of different strategies that people are already finding. I know some people, a lot of the time people love to just buy all the Burncycle slots right away. And then some people even go a step further and they swap those general chips out right away. Don't care that it's like technically losing actions. You're going to have to reboot the Burncycle sooner when you do that. But they're like, nope, just getting those optimized actions from the get-go, getting that extra bonus, like extra faster movement on the network is so much better. And then somebody else would respond being like, no way. Then you're rebooting that Burncycle too frequently. You're raising threat too much. There's a lot of different discussions on that, and that's really, really cool. As far as how I personally like to play, once again, probably not the best strategic way to play. I always personally love to just really lean into the role-playing aspect. So pretty much every single time I play Torrent now, since we've been doing all the playtesting and prototyping, it's just like, all right, how can I just be like a true, agent of chaos? And just, I remember there was one time when we were first doing like the first initial playtest of these new bots, just to make sure before we send them out to playtesters, be like, all right, is there anything glaring that we're missing here, just to make sure it's all good so we can start sending it out. There was a moment where I was in an equipment room, and there was a radio head just outside, because it was, that's where I was trying to patrol to. Had no awareness of me. I was safe in that equipment room. But there was the radio head, and then there was 2 more guards just in the hallway. This was on Need Chain floor 2. And there's a few other guards lined up. And I just like look at the team, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to take my turn. I'm going to open this door, like right in front of this radio head. And everyone's like, wait, why? Why are you going to open the door? And I just opened it, and then I just rocket fist. And I punched that radio head. It went flying through the hallway and stunned like 2 more guards. And everyone's like, we've already completed the objective. We can just get to the safe set. And I'm like, yeah, but that was so much fun. Yeah. I'm just imagining this little tiny battle bot, because Torrent's not very big. If you think about those classic like battle bots and Robot Wars, they're not really big. So she's just like this. It's probably sitting on the floor, opens the door. There's this giant mech suit, just looks down at this little tiny thing. She jumps up and just, and it goes woo across the map. It's like, So that's my strategy for Burncycle is just do the craziest thing you can think of on your turn every single turn. You might not win as often, but it's exciting.
I think the magic in Burncycle, honestly, is that the best strategy often changes based on player count.
Oh, yeah.
Based on mission, based on corporation, based on captain, based on really, all the factors that are unfolding in front of you. And that's what makes it, I think, a magical sandbox to engage in. So I don't know that there is a best strategy. Depending on the bot you're playing, it really can change a lot, and also with all those other things. All right, last question, and then we're going to wrap up this live stream. What are the chances there will ever be a Burncycle data/trove chest? I can't answer that question because it really depends on the long-term success and viability of the franchise. And we've said the same about Cloudspire, because we get asked that about Cloudspire. Again, I'll say trove chests in general for Too Many Bones are a bear to make. They're really expensive to make. They are hard to engineer. They are hard to get to people safely. And they are a pain to also offer replacements. So unless a franchise, and I say this across the entire CTG universe, unless a franchise proves to be either as successful or close to as successful as Too Many Bones, and we'll see about Burncycle, we'll see about Hopla, we'll see about Elder Scrolls, and even moving forward, we'll see about Cloudspire, because there will likely be future campaign for Cloudspire again as well. Unless they prove to be roughly as popular as Bones, though, in terms of like long-term sales and that sort of thing, doing a trove chest or data chest or whatever you want to call it is not super economical for us, and it's hard to justify. So if we see sales continue to do really, really well across this franchise, we would love to do something about that. However, I'd also just point out that, like, aside from the brass mags, everything's going to fit in the base box from this cycle of content already. So there's really no need, and even with Cloudspire, everything fits in that base game box.
Except the minis.
Except for the minis, yeah. So, and we're never going to do a trove chest that will take minis into account. I can say that with like almost 100% certainty, because they're big, they're unwieldy, they just require a lot of storage. So we're always going to focus on the actual gameplay content and fitting that inside of a singular box, and not necessarily minis. So I would say the odds right now are, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this second wave of content does. We'll see how it sells moving forward. We'll see how this campaign finishes out. We're over 100K, which is awesome. It continues to tick up slowly but surely, and we'll see what happens in the future. So never want to miss an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to all of you Burncycle fans. Thank you to all of you Chip Theory fans. Thank you to all of you original backers of the original game who believed in this game, despite it looking a little shaky on that original campaign, despite all the unfinished art and unfinished mechanics and everything. Thank you for backing it and bringing it to life. We're so excited about the future of this franchise. We're so excited about all this content, and yeah, we can't wait to show you more and can't wait to show you all the updates we've got planned throughout the next 10 days. So with no other questions in the chat, I'm going to sign off. So again, I'm Josh Welgus. You know me as Gilly. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm Salem Scott. You know me as Salem.
Salem Scott.
Sometimes Dart, but
Sometimes.
not as often as you being Gilly. It's a
Yeah.
And then I have interface on Discord, so who knows?
It's
you know.
tenuous. Yes. Okay. But anyway, on behalf of both of us and the entire team at Chip Theory, thank you so much for backing our project and tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.